I would create more products. I mean, I have like 500, but I'm trying to do like 3 or 4 a week, which we forgot to go over the product board. I got 2 this week. I would make more products. JJ Tech Prints, obviously another print channel, asks, where do you see yourself in 5 years, and do you consider large formats your niche? What other things would you like to be known as, or knowledge you'd like to have in 5 years? I appreciate your honest videos. Happy printing. It's a very nice comment. People upvoted that one. Yeah, I guess large printing is my niche. It's because like nobody likes doing this, and it's because it's just so hard. It's really just because I make my own filament, and it's like comparatively dirt cheap. I mean, I think I produce filament cheaper than anybody I've ever heard of. And so with the recycling, that means that the old prints aren't wasted, which is like one of the big problems with large format printing. So I can offer prices that are really competitive. Plus, the printers that actually work aren't made anymore. That's the thing that's crazy about this, is like the reason I can have this business now is because there's all these things that like I somehow became uniquely suited to do. That's not to say you can't start things with smaller printers and stuff, and there's going to be more creative people than me and stuff, people that have all kinds of interesting niches they find. But yeah, that's basically why. This guy has a big channel. I've checked him out before. Australian Flight Simmer, or AUS Flight Simmer. How do you stay motivated each and every day being a sole business owner? Second question, what would be the best platforms in your experience to sell your products other than Etsy? Congrats on 100 episodes. This is maybe what goes back to the thing I said before. It was sort of hard when I actually fully dedicated myself to this business to be motivated each and every day. Now, granted, I'd just gotten done 8 to 10 years of doing horrible jobs, basically. So I was very ecstatic to not be doing that. But most people don't understand the value of having a manager is they make you do the things you're supposed to do. And then you have to manage yourself, which is very hard. But I am very high in a personality trait called conscientiousness. I'm almost 100 out of 100, which is statistically very rare. And I'm high in openness, which is basically creativity. According to the Big Five personality model, which is the most, it's the most accurate personality model because the canonical categories are theoretically derived. So that helps. Even if you're predisposed to work hard, really, to be an entrepreneur, you have to be like, I think of it as like being in the Olympics. I knew a guy named Tom Hardiman who ran track in the same Olympic Games that Bruce Jenner did. And he was a bit of a mentor during ministry school because he taught there. And he used to describe what Olympians do. And at the time I was thinking about that for music. So I took that kind of work ethic with music and just played. I practiced 8 hours a day, basically every day. And then did a lot of other things. So basically think about what you don't want to do and do that every day. And then maybe you can get to the point where you might be successful. A lot of people are asking the same questions, and not all of these comments are questions, so maybe we can get through this actually somewhat fast. 32587MSW says, question for episode 100. I'm interested in your process for making filament. Can you show us your process, how you make filament? Then he's grateful for some things. I mean, I kind of show that a lot. Yeah, just watch a bunch of episodes. He's probably already looked at old episodes and figured it out. Here's a good question. Jeff Knutter, Knutter, says, 100th episode question, why M3 is 3D? How did you come up with your name and logo? I recently started watching your vlogs and I'm addicted. Sometimes they go really random. Says some stuff about my gratitude. That's basically his question. M3's 3D. I came up with 10 names and I had people on social media vote for the best one, and that was the one. As to why I came up with M3 is 3D, M3 is like my name and is 3D. That I didn't really expect this to be successful, honestly. The business was named when I probably had I didn't have any sales. Right, because I had to pick the name on Etsy, so I didn't have any sales at all. Jimmy Bargo 5308 says, how do you dry and keep your filament dry for printing? I don't. When you make it fresh, it doesn't sit on racks for a long time, and it's fine. Usually. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't, and it's fine. Next question, how much supports do you use in your largest items, inside supports? There are some things I've used inside supports on, but that's a very rare thing. I try to design it so that it doesn't have to have supports. Supports are, anyone that does printing knows, they're a pain and they can ruin your print. So I only use supports if there's literally no other option. You wrote some good stuff here. Thank you in advance for answering all these questions from all of us, and I'm grateful for being part of Gratitude Gang and being sober from opiates for 6 years. Very good, Jimmy. My best friend growing up overdosed on opiates, and I grew up in a really rough area. Somebody's probably going to ask about this, but yeah, I grew up next to a rusted out factory. What does my dream farm look like? Asks Sean Chitak. More machines, larger volume, resin printing. I mean, I've thought about resin printing. It's just so many people do it. As Mark Twain says, when you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. I guess more machines. I've thought about building large volume printers since I actually know how to do that. You know, like 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. Maybe that's something I'll try doing next year. The only thing is I just don't know how to ship things that big. Guy the Jedi asks, basically, why don't I convert my printers to Clipper? The Comgrow T500 used Clipper and I hated it. It might be better, but the only experience I ever had with it absolutely freaking sucked. Andriy Horev 2921 asks, have you ever thought switching to more expensive printers like Core XY or Bamboo Lab bed slingers? Sort of. It's more like it just works so well. I would need a really good reason to buy a bunch of expensive printers. Don't get me wrong, I've seen all the videos with the Bamboo Lab printers and they look cool, but I just don't need to. See, in business and entrepreneurship, actually Tony Robbins said this in one of those audiobooks that I read when I was homeless living in my car. People don't do what they want to do, they do what they need to do. And that is super true for business. It's like, it'd be cool to mess around with a Bamboo Labs printer, and maybe I will get myself one for Christmas or something, I don't know. But I just don't need to. And I can make basically anything I could ever want or imagine, and then I can paint it. And like, if you already have unlimited possibilities, I just don't know why I would try to give myself more possibilities, but I don't really know, so maybe. Riki the Shadow 123 says, question, can you show how your bubble wrap machine works, your process with packing materials? I kind of show that. You just buy them. The thing is, I hooked up, I would kind of be giving a secret away, but you guys see it enough. I hooked up a shop vac set in reverse to inflate the bubbles instead of the stock bubble inflator, because I didn't like how much it inflated the bubbles. And the bubble wrap that I make is 4 or 5 times as effective as store-bought bubble wrap, and it's a quarter of the price. So it's almost like sending things for free. Let's see, MK quote 20 says, hi, editing Mark, do you have any distant goals for the business or YouTube channel? Keep up the great content. Sort of. I kind of want to make a bunch of money and maybe move to the Philippines or something like that, because it's really nice and you can live on a third of the normal income. Plus the people are really, really nice. I've known a few Filipino Americans and it'd be cool to live around them, but I'm not totally sold on that. I don't know. I don't have any goals for the YouTube channel. This is just an authentic thing. I mean, it'd be cool if I made a bunch of money from it, but I have a business. It's like, this is like an enjoyment thing for me almost. I just don't feel like being ambitious with it, but I'm ambitious in something else, and I guess I'm ambitious in showing it, but to me that's kind of enough. Randy Dowdy 4064 says a bunch of stuff here. Do you care about any of the new printers, or kind of already answered that? What temps, what slicer, what 3D design tools? When a print job fails, does it go to the spool making material heap? Yes. Slicer, I use an old version of Cura. I use an old version on purpose because it loads super quickly. 3D design tools, I use a bunch of stuff. I mean, there's videos on that. You can check it out. Like, I'm not even the guru for that. And for the temperatures, that's kind of a trade secret. Like, temperatures, all the print settings and stuff. I mean, I experimented with it for years and years and got customer feedback. Like, I have 6 years going on 7 years of customer feedback on all that stuff. And I have dialed it in so precisely that it feels like something I just shouldn't talk about. But everybody has different preferences, and your customers really might like something different than mine. So I kind of leave it there. Like, basically, if I told you, it doesn't even mean that would be right for you. You just have to find out what your customers actually want. This guy asked a bunch of stuff. Gordon Kane 9608. You speak of your father in the past tense. My assumption is that he is past. Well, he's hazarding a guess. 1 or 2 decades ago. That is basically right. My dad died when he was 19, which I'm 38, so that's exactly half my life ago. And he asked about the Dr. Phil appearance. Yes, I was on Dr. Phil, and it's because when my dad died, I was about to move away because I was 19, and my mom tried to have me declared insane. And she emailed Dr. Phil. I never contacted him. And she was so sure that she was right in what she was doing that she emailed freaking Dr. Phil. I'm not really bitter about the whole thing at this point in my life, but I don't have a relationship with my mother. She's kind of schizophrenic. He asks about the fact that I moved 50 times. He didn't really ask why, so I guess I won't answer that. Are there other states you've lived in? Yes, I've lived in maybe like 12 states, something like that. He asked about the hole in the floor thing. Already answered that. Elric Traveler 8275 says, he's grateful for another day. Very good. My question, if you went full tilt, about how much filament do you think you could crank out by weight? I suppose he means probably by day. With 2 extruders, I could do about 20 rolls. I don't know. I could probably do like 16 rolls. Those are about 2.2 pounds, so let's just do some math. Wait, no. Times 2, because they're 2 kilograms, so that's 4.4. So that's about 70 pounds. I could make about 70 pounds of filament a day if I absolutely had to. But that is insane. I mean, that's how the wall is getting all built up. Kamikaze 3557 asked about humidity levels. I kind of already answered that. I don't worry about them. Wolfman Crab Arms, which is pretty epic name. Have you considered starting a Discord server or any other type of group where viewers / yourself could discuss the channel, business, 3D printing, etc.? Then he said, do you have any issues with the painted large print smelling? I don't know, because I don't have a sense of smell. Or I have almost no sense of smell. I grew up with, like I said, my mom was very mentally ill, and she had about 10 to 20 cats at any time, and I'm allergic to cats. So I think that affected my ability to smell, and I pretty much can't smell anything. But we do let them dry for a long time, the prints. I don't have a Discord server. I don't know how to set one up. If somebody wants to do that, I'm not saying no. This isn't a question, but Dave Brown 4119 says, just go to Lowe's and have them cut you a big piece of glass for the heat bed or use mirror. There's actually reasons I don't do that. There's almost nothing about this business that I haven't thought about. Not that I don't want you to ask questions, but I'm just telling you. The glass they make is typically not suitable for heated beds, and mirrors suck. Maybe I've seen people print on mirrors, but I've never had a mirror that I printed on that worked well. The Scottish 3D is the guy that made this. I think he has a shop that is named that. You guys should probably check it out. I'm interested in the origin story for your business. How were the first few years in terms of setup, sales, etc.? How long did it take before it became a full-time gig? I started it in October, and then there was Christmas right after that, which was a nightmare. I had 4 printers, I think. But the first week I started selling stuff, I think I made $500, which was amazing. And then I just kept listing things, and I was obviously, this is the tail end of my marriage, so we're in a pretty small apartment. And towards the end, my wife really wanted me to stop doing the business because she thought it was too risky. But like, believe me, we talked about everything. We probably talked and discussed things too much, if anything. And this was also during therapy. So as you guys know, a lot of you have started 3D printing businesses or do it as a hobby, and there's no risk to it. It's like you just put things online, people buy them, you make it, and you ship it to them. That's it. So it didn't make any sense. But it came very close. Something that almost happened with this business is I came very close to not doing it just because she just got it in her head that it was risky. And I probably would have stopped doing this business if she had absolutely insisted on it. But instead she left me, which is a weird kind of blessing. So yeah, Scottish 3D. I wouldn't necessarily follow my path, but something like that. And this guy asked before. I'm not going to read his name again because it's really hard to say. You use any material except PLA? No. How do you print the shark with fade? I don't print it with fade. I print it and then fade it. Hotfix 7387 asks about the Comgrow T500. I promise you, you do not want to buy one. I have never had as bad an experience. Actually, the Tronxy printers were worse. Actually, no, they weren't. They're pretty close to as bad, but at least I printed a lot of things with those. I probably printed 7 things. I had it last Christmas, and it was the least reliable printer I've ever had in my life. I messed with it for over a year to try to get it to work consistently and couldn't. Never buy it. I knew this question was here. Internet user 87, wow, only the 87th user. Question for episode 100, what are the various jobs you've had in your life and what are some of the unique learnings from each of them? I kind of addressed the second part of that already. Let me see, I've packaged jerky. I've been a cell phone programmer. I've worked in warehouses. I didn't do it as a job, but I was a game programmer for 6 years. I got to the point where I could recreate any SNES, Genesis, or NES game from scratch, including the music. I mean, I've been a musician. I've produced people. I ran a recording studio for about a decade and a half. I've bagged groceries. I've worked at a deli. I've worked at McDonald's. I've worked at Burger King. I've worked stocking shelves at a grocery store. It's really easier almost just to ask what I haven't done. I've been a waiter. I've had several delivery jobs. I would really have to think about this, but if it's a crappy job, I've probably done it. The main thing I learned from all of them, if I had to have a commonality, is that I didn't want to do them. The guy with the hard to pronounce name, who might be Russian or something, also asked, have you ever reached a point at which you thought, F, I am tired of printing, it's time to quit this? What held you in place? Sort of. I don't know. It's more like that happened a lot when I was homeless. Then I just stopped doing it because I gave up on hope. The only hope you have is to work your butt off. More like a request. This is new Chin EDU 859. Can you by any chance start a new store that has nothing to do with your current shop? I think that was a request, but I'm gonna answer it as if it's a question. Yes, you can, and no, you probably shouldn't, because Etsy gets suspicious about that. They won't say that, but it's true. What TV show and episode were you on when you were younger? It was, of course, Dr. Phil. I don't remember the episode. If you'd asked me, I would have said 3rd season. I never saw Dr. Phil before being on it. I didn't even really know what kind of show it was. But somebody looked it up and I was on the 4th season, I think. Mr. Duck 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 says, I'm strongly considering building my own 3D design and print business, focusing on custom parts to solve practical problems. Secondary focus would be to do what you're doing, designing interesting items for sale on Etsy. I guess he's probably doing business to business for the first part. Any advice, basically? Yeah, I really thought about doing that. One of the first things I was trying to do is sell to brick and mortar stores that were like gift shops and stuff, because I figured nobody's probably doing that because it's so boring. And those gift shops do very little business, so big corporate entities aren't going after them. And then I was thinking about doing gaming shops, which actually really made sense because all my early stuff was like board gaming accessories. And we tried it, and it sucked, basically. But you could probably do it. I don't know. It's like things were going well on Etsy, so I just did that instead. But selling to brick and mortar stores, the best jobs are not the jobs that you apply for. The best jobs are the ones that you create, or you go to somebody and ask if you can do that job for somebody. Inventing jobs is the way to get a job. And it's the same with business. Like the best businesses are the ones that the best clients are the ones that you just go out and get and offer them something. People love initiative. Garrett Thomberg asks, would you download a car? Yes. I would even go so far as to say I have downloaded a car. Richard Keyser 9468 asks, I would like to know more about how filament making works, why you use water when grinding up old prints. Kind of address the first part. The reason I use water in the blenders is because it allows the pieces to be ground up much more granularly. Plus, blenders are a ready-made thing. I basically created my entire recycling operation with stuff from the thrift store. Shane Christensen 38 says, care to cover address the startup costs of self-extruding your own filament? It's expensive. Nowadays, I probably know enough that I could actually build an extruder from scratch, but I bought a Filabot extruder and then just gradually learned how to fix it because they're a horrible company who does not answer emails or phone calls. And yes, those are the only two ways to get a hold of them. They will sell you a $3,500 item and then it stops working after 2 months and they cannot be reached. Somebody asked, what is your paint process? In fact, several people asked that. There's a video. I guess I haven't filmed it because I just didn't like how it looked. But if you want to see, I made a video. Just scroll down, you'll find it. Got a lot of people asking to go more in depth on the filament extrusion. Honestly, if you just watch a bunch of my old videos or continue watching these videos, you're going to see everything you need to see. More people asking about print settings. Like I said, it's probably the one thing I'm not going to share for the reasons I stated. A lot of repeats. You ever consider modernizing your fleet? People talk about the Igloo Neptune 4 Max. If that's the one I'm remembering, it's not big enough. That's why I don't use it. I'm not even convinced that Igloo printers are really better, but people are really opinionated about this stuff, and I've never owned one, so I have no idea. How do you plan for shipping cost on international shipments with all the different costs? That's a really good business-specific question, but the answer is Etsy figures that out. O-Rod is asking about the cost of filament per kilogram. They asked me if I have worked out the cost of filament per kilogram after factoring in the entire process. Yes, I have. I think Russian guy said again, do you follow trends in the 3D printer world? What would be the next big thing in your opinion? And basically, no. I create trends. I don't follow them. That was kind of a joke, but actually there are three product categories that I've invented that did not exist, as in nobody on Earth had done them before me. The first one is the head-shaped headphone stand. That's in the shape of a famous person's head or an animal or something like that. That had never been done before me. Or at least nobody had sold them. I mean, maybe people make all kinds of things. Nobody had like sold them before. I was the first person on Earth to do that. And now there are dozens of companies that do that. Second one is trash cans that are in the shape of heads. I'm pretty sure nobody's ever done that before. I'm trying to remember what the third one is. Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty burnt. Maybe it'll occur to me. I'm pretty sure there are 3 product categories I created, but man, it's like right on the tip of my brain. I should not have had that much scotch. Okay, Koamas 1976 says, how much do you pay in advertising per month? Basically nothing. Here's a good question. DZ, a bunch of letters, says, question for episode 100, how did the review letters go? And did you think you got any review letters? Did you get any extra reviews from them? No. I kept track. None of the people that got thank you cards left any reviews. Maybe I should have done more to have a bigger sample size, but man, I was sure that was gonna work, and it didn't. But that's what you do in business. You take small risks. The downside was I wasted a little bit of time. The upside would have been I found a big unlock for getting good reviews. I've had a couple people ask about the fumes from creating plastic filament. I have a friend who's a chemical engineer, and I consulted with him about it, and he does that. He does a similar process all day long, and I felt like I was in the clear. Strawberry, do you smoke weed or alcohol, and how often? Sandingo asked that. He called me Strawberry because that's what my last name means. I don't really smoke weed, and I very, very rarely drink alcohol. Only on election nights. 100th episode question from Whitney's Wicked Workshop. When and where were you born? I guess I'm not going to be too specific about this. Seems a little FBI raid-ish. I was born in Virginia at a military hospital in 1986. What's your go-to drink at the Old Dunk? Asks Andrew Thies 2183. Cold brew with cream. Sometimes I buy a iced coffee with cream. It's 50 cents less. Juka Kasikasi 6282 asks, what's the best way to add pineapple to a pizza? Pre-sliced. You don't want to just add the whole pineapple. Gleichen is fill, which means like is fill. Gleich is the German word for alike, something being like something else. This is going to sound so judgmental, and I really do not mean it that way, but here is my question. Is it deliberate that you include dirty or worn out stuff in every shot? I mean, the broken glass jug in your filament extrusion system, or the water, brown water, messed up filament spools, headliner. Yeah, okay. I grew up in a house that didn't really have insulation and didn't fully have walls. So stuff like that doesn't bother me. But if you're asking about the actual water, it's because those plastic pellets have dust on them. So there's no way to get the water to just not be at least a little bit brown. And I change it out every so often, but there's just no way to fix that. And it doesn't really affect the filament, because when the filament comes out of the water bath, it's still pretty hot. By the time it's kind of gone around a few times, all of the water has evaporated off of it. And if that wasn't true, it would mean the filament couldn't work, because humidity is obviously something you have to worry about. Okay, there were a lot of repeats, so this didn't take as long as I thought it would. But I think we've basically effectively gotten to every question except for these last ones. 100th episode question from Trawitz 9215. That's almost 90125 by Yes. Great album. Have you ever taken the Myers-Briggs test, and did you get INTJ? The Myers-Briggs test, along with like the DISC test and all the other personality models that aren't the Big Five personality model, are kind of BS. It's not that they're not measuring something real, it's that the categories are not the real categories of personality. The Big Five personality model is theoretically derived. What that means is that they're not inventing categories to measure, they're finding out what categories there actually are that personality inhabits. Like there are 5 dimensions of personality, and that is, the acronym spells OCEAN, and that's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. For openness, I'm very high. I think I'm a 70 to 80%, which means I'm very open to experiences, which is sort of creativity. Conscientiousness is rule following and like ability to work hard, or proclivity to work hard. I mean, everybody can work hard, sort of. And I'm almost 100 out of that. Extroversion, I was actually going to look at my results because I think I saved them somewhere. I am pretty 50-50 on. I've had jobs where I was not around people at all for months and I was fine with it. Then I had jobs, I mean, I've done sales jobs where I'm talking to people all the time. So I don't know if this makes me sound good or not, but I feel really indifferent to human interaction. It's not that I don't get anything out of it, but it's like I appreciate not having to deal with people too. People are such a mixed blessing, especially if we're talking about the general public, and you guys know what I'm talking about. If you've worked a server job or delivery or anything, it's like sometimes being around people's awesome. Then sometimes you have like the worst day possible and you have customers chewing you out for no reason at all, or like something bad happens and you have a bad manager and you get fired and like it's all just stupid. I think what all those experiences left me with is kind of being indifferent about the whole thing. It's like, it's not like I don't like, I love having good conversations with people, and I have had many of them. But like, man, especially if it's the general public, it's like I could really take it or leave it in some ways. That being said, a lot of that is about how you're perceiving it and what you're choosing to focus on. That's why I try to focus on good reviews and not just like the bad reviews that stick in my craw. Because you gotta feel like you're really making a difference out there. That's why I like reading your guys' comments, because that's kind of what you tell me, and it's very gratifying. This guy, being a little snarky, said RMSTRJIM. Being snarky, says, source glass and have it cut or cut it yourself. It's not that hard. I'm sure it's not that hard, but I don't feel like it. Then a guy says, hey bro, this is the last question. Love the vlog. Wondering if you want to start a new venture with me. It's in the 3D printing field. Probably not, but maybe. I might message him. Shockingly, I think that was all of them. Like I said, if I didn't specifically answer your question, it's because I effectively answered your question some other time. I really have a lot to do still, but this was actually pretty fun. I think maybe every 100 episodes we'll do this. Let me know in the comments if that's something you want. Every 100 episodes is a Q&A. I mean, I don't know how many things there are to learn about me that would be interesting, but let me know in the comments if you want that, because you might as well celebrate somehow. Anyway, I'm very, very beat and kind of weird feeling, but this was a very flattering experience. Anytime somebody expresses this much interest in my life, it's always quite humbling. So we are the Gratitude Gang. In addition to telling me about the 100 episode thing, tell me what you're grateful for, tell me what you got going on in your life, and what challenges you've got, what small moments you are enjoying, and you probably will get a heart. You might get an upvote. Upvote other people's stuff, because that's a nice thing to do. And creating a little community sure doesn't hurt. We've already kind of done it. This is an encouraging place for you. So peace out, everybody.